Hello everyone and welcome back to my online lecture series. Today we are going to deal with a poem, The Gift of India by Sarojini Naidu. This poem is about war. This poem is about First World War that is fought between 1914 to 1918. And this particular poem is written by Sarojini Naidu in 1915. This poem is about the war effects. This is a war poem. This is tribute to Indian soldiers. Near about 10 lakh Indian soldiers pre-independent India. That when it was no partition between India and Pakistan, illiterate people from India joined the Allied forces. They joined the British forces in the First World War, and that these 10 lakh soldiers from British East India Empire served the Allied forces in First World War. The sacrifice of Indian soldiers cannot be neglected, cannot be overlooked in First World War. It should be recognized. These soldiers have performed outstanding bravery. They played crucial role in the war, in the First World War. These soldiers have played an important role. They bravely fought with the enemies of German forces and Hungarian forces. And they brought the victory. And their contribution cannot be overlooked. Their contribution in the World War First cannot be neglected, cannot be overlooked. Brave soldiers, these brave Indian troops fought for the other nations when India was in the clutch of British rule. And that India was united at that time in 1915. This poem has been written by Sarojini Naidu, and she has remembered the contribution of Indian soldiers and their martyrdom. They fought for not India but other nations like England and France. Now we'll talk about Sarojini Naidu. Sarojini Naidu's lifespan was between 1879 to 1949. She was a political activist and she was a poet. She fought for Indian independence and she was an active freedom fighter in the struggle of India's independence. She wrote number of poems. She wrote number of books in the favor of India's independence. Because of her contribution to the literature, she is called as a Nightingale of India by Mahatma Gandhi, and she is also called as a Bharat Kokila by Rabindranath Tagore. She was born in Bengali family in Hyderabad, and Naidu was educated in Madras, London and Cambridge. Sarojini Naidu was appointed as the President of Indian National Congress in 1925, and after that she was appointed as a Governor of United Province in 1947. Sarojini Naidu became the first woman to hold the office of Governor in Dominion of India. She was with Mahatma Gandhiji in his Satyagraha in 1930. She has written The Golden Threshold that was published in 1905. It was published in the United Kingdom. In 1912, she has published The Bird of Time, Songs of Life, Death and Spring. In 1917, she has written The Broken Wing, Songs of Love, Death and Spring. The Feather of Dawn was published posthumously. So, the contribution of Sarojini Naidu in Indian literature is immense. Even her contribution cannot be overlooked as far as India's freedom struggle is concerned. The Gift of India. This is a famous poem by Sarojini Naidu. This poem concentrates upon the sacrifice of soldiers, Indian soldiers in World War First. This poem is also about the war history. The selfless sacrifices of Indian soldiers is the theme of this poem. is the main theme of this poem, the sacrifice of Indian soldiers in other countries for other nations. Foreign countries have taken benefits from India. Sarojini Naidu regards these benefits as the gifts given by India to the colonizers. Even this poem can be regarded as a kind of reminder or appeal to the Allied forces to remember Indian contribution to their victory. The contribution of India and Indian soldiers cannot be neglected, cannot be overlooked in the victory of these colonizers. This poem is a simple and elegant. This poem consists 4 stanzas consisting 6 lines each. And this poem has rhyme scheme of AABBCC. First stanza is about the various gifts India has given to the foreign countries. Second stanza focuses upon the pensive state of martyred Indian soldiers, and third stanza talks about the grief those deaths have brought. And finally, the fourth stanza is a sort of appeal to honor and remember these soldiers who have sacrificed their lives for the cause of war. I will read first stanza and then I will talk about what it is about. Is there aught you need that my hands withhold? Rich gifts of raiment or grain or gold. Lo, I have flung east and west, priceless treasures torn from my breast, and yielded sons of my stricken womb to the drumbeats of duty and saber of doom. This first stanza talks about the sacrifices made by Indian soldiers and Mother India. The narrator of this poem is Mother India. She is asking to the foreign countries that is there any sacrifice left for Mother India to do, because that so many riches, so many gifts, raiment, grain or gold, so many gifts have been given by India to the foreign countries. She has given the gifts of riches, gifts of cloth, that is raiment, gifts of grain, and the precious things like gold. Actually, these gifts are taken from India forcefully. So many things are looted by British forces, and even today these are the precious things in the British Museum. Is there aught you need that my hands withhold? Rich gifts of raiment or grain or gold. Lo, I have flung the east and west, priceless treasures torn from my breast, and yielded the sons of my stricken womb to the drumbeats of duty, the sabers of doom. First stanza begins with Mother India asking, is there any gift, is there any sacrifice left? Is there any sacrifice left for her to make? She has made sacrifices. She has sent her sons to the battlefield, warfield, for the foreign countries. Even she has given the rich gifts to the world, especially the colonizers. The gift of cloth, the gift of food, the gift of grain, and the precious gifts like gold. India has flung priceless treasures of her land. She says, Sarojini Naidu says through these lines, Lo, I have flung to the east and west priceless treasures torn from my breast. So she has not given just the clothes, gold and grain, but she has given the treasures of her breast. The sons of India, the soldiers of India, the soldiers of United India who participated in World War I, and the contribution of Indian soldiers cannot be neglected. Moreover, she has sent her sons, that is, the youth of her land and distant battlegrounds. These are the youths of her land. She has sent these youths to the distant lands to fight someone else's war. She questions what more she has to do, what more she has to sacrifice for the world, for the nations of the world, because she has given everything. She has sent her sons to fight for the other countries. To understand this poem, we have to look back at India's history, especially around which this poem has been written. It was 1950, and in the middle of World War I, when India was still under the British rule, a lot of Indian soldiers were employed in British forces, and they fought in World War I for the British allies. This poem can be seen as the poet's homage to these soldiers who sacrificed their lives. Under the British rule, India was exploited for its riches and resources. Sarojini Naidu acknowledges this fact. The very first line of the poem shows India's sentiment of anger, and Mother India is questioning, is it not enough that I have given everything? This is a war poem. Sarojini Naidu tries to focus upon the effects of war, the devastation by the war. For that she has used the word saber of doom. These words catch the attention. She says, and yielded the sons of my stricken womb to the drumbeats of duty, the saber of doom. When Indian soldiers were employed in British forces, they were walking with the drum beats for their duty. They were bravely fighting with the German forces, Hungarian forces, and the forces against the Britain and France. And number of soldiers were killed in this war that is described by this saber of doom, the sword of doom. So the first stanza talks about how the Indian soldiers were employed by British forces, how these soldiers fought bravely. It is said that 10 lakh soldiers fought on behalf of British allied forces. They fought for other nations in different locations of the world. Now the second stanza, gathered like pearls in their aligned graves, silent they sleep by Persian waves, scattered like shells on Egyptian sands, they lie with pale, brown and brave broken hands. They are strewn like blossoms mown down by chance on the blood-brown meadows of Flanders and France. This second stanza is about the sacrifice of Indian soldiers. She talks about the sacrifices of their lives from different angle. These brave soldiers who fought for other countries, they gave up their lives, and after their death they were buried in a mass graves. They were buried in the foreign distant lands. They were buried in a mass graves in foreign countries where they died. These soldiers were away from the homeland, and even their bodies did not get comfort. Their bodies could not get the motherland. They could not get their motherland to bury. The speaker says that they slipped by Persian waves and scattered like shells on Egyptian sands. And even Mother India says that these dead soldiers lie with pale and brown and brave, broken hands. They were gathered like pearls in the aligned graves. These soldiers were silent. They sleep by a Persian waves. They sleep in their graves. They were collected and they were buried in a mass grave. They were the pearls of India. They were very close to Mother India. Their mothers were waiting for them, but they could not return. Their sacrifice could not be neglected because mothers waiting for their son, they could not be comforted with anything. Sarojini Naidu says that they slip by the Persian wave and scattered like shells on Egyptian sands. The speaker says that these dead soldiers lie with pale, brown and brave, broken hands. Further, this intensifies the image of death and devastation. Broken hands further intensifying the image of death and devastation. This second stanza intensifies the image of death and devastation. The bodies of Indian soldiers were carelessly scattered, and these, as if Sarojini Naidu says that these bodies were like carelessly trimmed flowers. She says blossoms mown down by chance. These are like the flowers mown down by chance, trimmed carelessly, and they were killed at the battlefield of Flanders and France. Flanders of France is a part of historical country of Flanders in a present-day France, where Flemings were traditionally a dominant ethnic group and where a dialect of Dutch was or still is traditionally spoken. There is a simile used by Sarojini Naidu, comparison of warriors to the blossoms. These warriors were killed in the World War I as if they are carelessly trimmed flowers. It signifies the value of Indian soldiers and the value of these sons to Mother India. The blood brown meadows, it signifies the horror of war, the effects of war. In this second stanza, Sarojini Naidu talks about how these soldiers sacrificed, but even then their sacrifice was not remembered. These soldiers were like shells scattered on the Egyptian sand. Their bodies were scattered on the battlefield, were collected and buried in a mass grave. And they lie when they were killed, when they sacrificed their lives. They were still brave, with brave and broken hands. So it is the devastating scene of the battlefield where number of dead bodies and body parts scattered everywhere. This is the devastating scene of the battlefield. The third stanza, can you measure the grief of tears I weep, or compass the awe of the watch I keep, or the pride that thrills through my heart's despair, and the hope that comforts the anguish of prayer, and the far sad glorious vision I see of the torn red banners of victory. In third stanza, Mother India asks about the grief, whether the foreign countries have an idea about the grief of Mother India and the people of India and the mothers especially. Their sons have lost their lives in this battlefield. Number of illiterate people from United India were employed in British Allied forces, and they were fighting for other countries in number of locations in the world. She says, if they can measure the grief if they can measure the awe, and if they can observe the tears in the eyes of Mother India and the mothers whose sons lost their lives at the battlefield, when I watch my sons dying on the battlefield, she says she has the pride for these Indian soldiers. Even she has anguish. She says that she has a pride in her heart, though she has a despair in her heart. And she has hope that comforts the anguish of prayer. She says that her sons who have fought bravely and brought victory. The poet suggests that the speaker, despite her sadness and deep-rooted anguish, is proud of her sons who have fought bravely and brought victory to other nations. She gives an expression to voices of countless Indian mothers whose sons have fought in the war. The poet says that the people of warring nations can never comprehend the small hope that comforts these mothers from the pain of praying for their sons' safety. She asked if they can understand the vision of glory she sees. It is a sad one because she has lost her sons for it. Further, she says, and the far sad glorious vision I see of the torn red banners of victory. I can see the vision of glory. This vision is glorious. Though they get victory in this battle, this victory stands upon the sacrifices of number of soldiers injured in this war, number of soldiers died in this war, they killed in this war. So the torn red banner of victory, which has come at the expense of much blood, is a sad and meaningless to her. British troops, with the help of Indian troops, could get the victory. This victory is useless for Mother India because there is a bloodshed in this victory, because there is a loss of lives. So third stanza talks about the pathos, the grief. In fourth stanza, Mother India says, when the terror and tumult of hate shall cease, and life be refashioned on anvils of peace, and your love shall offer memorial thanks to comrades who fought in your dauntless ranks, and you honor the deeds of deathless ones, remember the blood of thy martyred sons. She talks about the martyrdom of countless soldiers. The terror and tumult of hate which has created the war shall end, and there will be peace. The terror that is created by war shall end, and there will be peace after this war, and life will be refashioned. It will go back to normal life with drastic new changes. Life will come to the normal, but there will be drastic changes. The life will not be as usual. They have to struggle for the normal life. And your love shall offer memorial thanks to comrades who fought in your dauntless ranks. People will pay respect to the dead in the war. They will be remembered. The comrades in many ranks who gave their lives, they will be honored and they will not be forgotten. When there will be peace, their martyrdom will be remembered. When there is an atmosphere of peace, these dead soldiers will be remembered, their martyrdom will be remembered, and they will be honored as well. The poet uses the word for peacemaking on anvils of peace. The peace will be restored after some time, but for that they have to struggle to get the peace. This implies that the process of getting life back to the normal will not be easy one. Sarojini Naidu talks about the after effects of war in general. She says, You honor the deeds of deathless ones. Remember the blood of thy martyred sons. So, these soldiers will be remembered when there is an atmosphere of peace, when there is a normal life. These people, these soldiers will be remembered through the memorial, war memorial. But even then, it is useless. The governments of the world should try for the peace, not for the war. At present, there is a warlike situation between number of countries, India, China, and other countries. But there is no use of war. That nations should try for the peace and they should not try for the war. They should maintain the peace, because there is a devastating effects of war. Number of soldiers will be died, number of soldiers will be killed, and number of soldiers will be injured. Their lives will not be reversed. So the nations should try for peace, as there was First World War, Second World War, but we should try. The nations should try for the peace, not for the Third World War. This poem started as a celebration of India's contribution to the cause of others, but it ends up as a strong war poem concentrating both on the evils of destruction war brings and mourning, as well as the courage, the honor and recognition of heroes who fight in it. As always, Naidu's poem arouses a sense of pride and patriotism in the hearts of countrymen. So in this poem we have discussed that Mother India is the narrator of this poem. She says that Indian soldiers have sacrificed their lives and Mother India herself has sacrificed. Mother India has given the gifts to the other countries like gold, clothes and the grain. But more than that, Mother India has given the lives of the sons in the battlefield, in the World War First. But their sacrifices have been overlooked by the nations, by the colonizers. These selfless sacrifices could not be overlooked, and these colonizers should remember these martyrs who fought for other countries, who fought for these colonizers. They should remember the sacrifice of Indian troops, Indian soldiers in First World War, and they should be remembered forever. Because of their bravery, they could get the victory in this battle. These soldiers fought in Belgium. These soldiers fought in France and at number of places. Near about 130,000 soldiers fought in Belgium, at least 10,000 of whom lost their lives. And worldwide, 74,000 soldiers from pre-partition India lost their lives in this World War First. So thank you for watching this video lecture. Don't forget to subscribe my channel. You can like and you can share this video. Thank you.